I noticed that this open door philosophy actually ended up in a waste of about 45 minutes. I remember the day it dawned on me that so much of what I had been taught in leadership boot camp just didn't work. It wasn't gonna work. It was actually not even aligned with what I had learned as a therapist or the evidence in psychology. My first entry into reality-based leadership, this philosophy I've developed over the years, actually happened when I became a leader and I had gone through leadership boot camp from the HR perspective. In HR Leadership Boot Camp, one of the things they recommended is keeping an open door. And I'm pretty competitive, and so I took that serious. I wanted to be a great leader, and I thought, that's something I can do tomorrow. I'm just gonna keep an open door. I took it so seriously that I even bought a decorative doorstop with my own money, and my door was flung open. And that's where I started to just notice the enormous amount of waste that came from a very accepted leadership philosophy, keep an open door. The open door really was a portal for drama. Not many results happened because of the time I spent welcoming people into my open door. They came in to tattle or to talk about things that never happened or about things that never would happen. I noticed that this open door philosophy actually ended up in a waste of about 45 minutes with each person. The typical topic at these meetings weren't self-reflection or my own growth or how can I move through the world more skillfully. That wasn't the topic that people came into my office with. They came in with stories about other people, with judgment and tattling and gossiping, and they were telling me stories that they had made up in their minds that weren't reality, and they were worried about things in the future that probably would never happen, and they had a lot of stress, but their stress was coming from their stories, not their reality. So I started to really question much of what I was being taught by leadership and in the books that I was reading on leadership. I began to question the conventional wisdoms around leadership, and I really asked, do they work? Are they science-based? Has anyone really quantified the impacts, good or bad, of these techniques? And I started to go back to what I had learned as a therapist and implement what I knew about the human condition and how one can overcome the human condition. I believe leadership isn't necessarily about inspiring or motivating others. I think that leadership is really overcoming the human condition, and that leaders really need to understand things like ego and how not using great mental processes ends up in emotional waste, which I call drama. So it wasn't just the open door. I changed that almost immediately. I started to close my door and coach everybody on a regular basis. This whole fascination with the amount of emotional waste in the workplace was really born 20 years ago with the first piece of advice I got in my leadership training about keeping an open door, because it was obvious almost immediately that that fueled drama and fueled waste. And while it made people feel better on the short term to vent to me, it wasn't moving us forward and it wasn't producing the results that we needed. And worse off, my people weren't growing because it actually reinforced their belief that their circumstances were the reasons they couldn't succeed. I know that our circumstances aren't the reasons we don't succeed, they're just the reality in which we must succeed.